The phone was already in her hand before I even stepped out of my BMW. Margaret Sullivan, the self-appointed guardian of Cedar Heights Estates, stood on her perfectly manicured lawn like a sentry, her blonde bob catching the afternoon sun as she dialed 911. "Yes, officer, I need to report a suspicious person breaking into 1247 Maple Drive," she said, her voice carrying across the quiet cul-de-sac. "He's a large black male, probably armed, and he definitely doesn't belong in our neighborhood." I was inserting my key into my own front door. I turned around slowly, still holding my medical bag from the hospital. "Ma'am, I live here. This is my house." Margaret's eyes narrowed as she looked me up and down. Scrubs, hospital badge, BMW with personalized plates that read Cardio 1, none of it registered. In her mind, I was guilty of existing while black in her precious neighborhood. "I don't care what you claim," she snapped, phone still pressed to her ear. "I've lived here for 15 years, and I know every homeowner. You're trespassing, and I'm having you arrested." Other neighbors started emerging, drawn by the commotion. Some looked embarrassed, others curious. All of them had their phones out, recording what was about to become Margaret's worst day ever. "Officer, he's getting aggressive now," she lied smoothly into the phone. "Please hurry." I stayed calm. 20 years of dealing with difficult patients had taught me patience. Plus, I had something Margaret didn't know yet. The truth has a way of catching up with people like her. "My name is Dr. Marcus Washington, and I'm the chief of cardiothoracic surgery at Cedar Heights Medical Center." But to Margaret Sullivan, I was just another black man who didn't belong in her neighborhood. She was about to learn the hard way that assumptions can be deadly. Before we dive deeper into this story, drop a comment with your location and what time you're watching from. I love connecting with viewers around the world. Margaret Sullivan wasn't new to this game. She'd been terrorizing neighbors she deemed undesirable for years, hiding behind her HOA president title like it gave her special powers. When the Johnson family moved in, an interracial couple with adopted children, Margaret suddenly discovered violations everywhere. Their grass was too green, then too brown. She filed noise complaints about children laughing in their own backyard. The elderly Mr. Park got citations for foreign decorations, bamboo plants in his garden. The young Hispanic couple at the end of the street received fines for excessive visitors whenever their extended family came to dinner. But Margaret saved her special attention for me. It started the day I moved in. She marched up to my movers, demanding to see permits and identification. When I introduced myself as Dr. Washington, she actually laughed. "Doctor?" she scoffed. "Of what, hip-hop music?" The microaggressions escalated weekly. Citations for my car being improperly positioned in my own driveway. Complaints about loud music when I was playing classical while gardening. Anonymous tips to the city about possible drug activity because people occasionally visited my home. She even called animal control, claiming I had dangerous pit bulls. I owned 2 elderly golden retrievers named Mozart and Beethoven, but Margaret's biggest weapon was the police. She'd call them for everything: package deliveries, morning jogs, even sitting on my own porch. The officers knew her by name. Some rolled their eyes when they saw her number on caller ID. Others, unfortunately, took her seriously. What Margaret didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything. Every false report, every baseless citation, every racist comment she thought no one heard. Because while she saw me as just another target, I saw her as a case study in how prejudice destroys communities. And today, her obsession with proving I didn't belong was about to backfire spectacularly. The police arrived in under 10 minutes, 2 patrol cars with sirens wailing like this was a bank robbery. Officer Martinez stepped out first, hand hovering near his weapon, while his partner, Officer Chun, surveyed the scene. Margaret rushed toward them like a woman possessed. "Thank God you're here." "He's been trying to break in for 20 minutes. I think he has weapons in that bag." Officer Martinez looked at me, still standing calmly by my front door, keys in hand, then at Margaret. "Ma'am, can you explain the situation again?" "This man," she pointed dramatically, "is attempting to burglarize 1247 Maple Drive. I've never seen him before in my life. He claims he lives there, but that's impossible. I know every homeowner in this development. Officer Chun frowned. Sir, can you provide identification and proof of residence? I pulled out my wallet, handing over my driver's license, medical license, and homeowner's insurance card, all showing the same address we were standing in front of. Officer Martinez examined them carefully. Dr. Washington, these all appear to be in order. Margaret's face flushed red. Those could be fake. Anyone can print fake documents these days. I'm telling you, he doesn't live here. Ma'am, Officer Chun said carefully, Dr. Washington's documentation appears legitimate and he has keys to the property. But Margaret was spiraling now, her mask of respectability slipping. I don't care about your so-called documents. People like him don't belong in neighborhoods like this. He's probably dealing drugs or worse. The crowd of neighbors gasped. Even her usual supporters looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Peterson from across the street actually stepped forward. Margaret, Dr. Washington has lived here for 3 years. He's our neighbor. And a doctor, added Mr. Kim. He saved my wife's life when she had her heart attack. But Margaret was beyond reason now. I want him arrested anyway. For trespassing, for threatening me, for being suspicious? Officer Martinez exchanged a look with his partner. They'd clearly dealt with Margaret before, and her true colors were showing. Ma'am, making a false police report is a serious offense, Officer Chun warned. It's not false, Margaret shrieked. Just because you won't do your job doesn't mean... That's when fate intervened. Margaret's rant was interrupted by a sound that would change everything, her own ringtone. The call was from her husband. Not now, Gerald, Margaret snapped into her phone. I'm busy getting criminals arrested. But whatever Gerald was saying made her face go white. The phone trembled in her hand. What do you mean collapsed? What do you mean, Blue? Gerald, what? Her voice broke. I'll be right there. She hung up and turned to the officers, panic replacing her earlier arrogance. My husband. Something's wrong with his heart. He collapsed at work. They're taking him to Cedar Heights Medical Center. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a scalpel. Officer Martinez stepped forward. Ma'am, we can escort you to the hospital if... No time. Margaret was already running toward her Mercedes. But in her panic, she fumbled her keys, dropping them down a storm drain. That's when the second wave of irony hit. Her husband's life was in danger. She had no way to get to the hospital, and the man she'd just tried to have arrested was her only hope. I looked at the officers, then at Margaret's desperate face, and made a decision that probably saved Gerald Sullivan's life. Mrs. Sullivan, I said calmly, I'm going to the hospital anyway. My shift starts in an hour. I can drive you. She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. You what? Your husband needs medical attention. I can get you there faster than waiting for another ride. The neighbors watched in stunned silence as Margaret wrestled with her pride versus her panic. Her husband was dying, and the man she'd spent years tormenting was offering to help. But I just double quotes, she stammered. I'm a doctor, Mrs. Sullivan, and right now that's all that matters. Officer Martinez cleared his throat. Ma'am, Dr. Washington is offering to help. I'd take it if I were you. The crowd held its breath. Even the people live streaming seemed to sense this was a pivotal moment. Margaret's shoulders sagged. For the first time in years, her armor of arrogance cracked completely. Please, she whispered. Please help me get to my husband. The 15-minute drive to Cedar Heights Medical felt like an eternity. Margaret sat in my passenger seat, tears streaming down her face as I navigated traffic with the skill of someone who'd made this journey thousands of times. He's been having chest pains for weeks, she confessed, her voice barely audible. I kept telling him it was stress, that he was being dramatic. Oh God, what if I waited too long? I kept my eyes on the road, my voice steady. Chest pain can be many things, Mrs. Sullivan. Let's focus on getting you to him. She was quiet for a moment then. Why are you helping me? After everything I've done for you? I could have listed her crimes, the false police reports, the racist comments, the years of harassment. Instead, I said, because that's what doctors do. We help people who need help. But I called the police on you. I said terrible things. Yes, you did. She flinched at my honesty. I'm a horrible person. You made horrible choices, I corrected. There's a difference. When we reached the hospital, I didn't just drop her off. I parked in my reserved spot and walked her to the emergency department where my colleagues were already working on Gerald. Dr. Sarah Chun, the attending, met us at the entrance. Marcus, thank God you're here early. We've got a 58-year-old male with signs of acute ME. The cath lab is ready, but we need someone to speak with the family. Margaret grabbed my arm. That's medical speak, isn't it? Is he? He's having a heart attack, I explained gently. But you got him here in time. We can help him. The next 6 hours blurred together. I led the surgical team that performed Gerald's emergency cardiac catheterization, clearing the blocked artery that would have killed him. Margaret sat in the waiting room, surrounded by neighbors who'd driven to the hospital to support her, the same neighbors she'd spent years terrorizing. When I finally emerged from surgery, still in my scrubs, Margaret looked up with red, swollen eyes. How is he? He's going to be fine, I said. Full recovery expected. But he'll need lifestyle changes and regular follow-ups. She broke down completely. Thank you so much. I don't deserve this kindness. Gerald's recovery took 6 weeks. During that time, something remarkable happened in Cedar Heights Estates. Margaret Sullivan began to change. It started small. She personally apologized to every neighbor she'd harassed, often with tears in her eyes. She resigned from the HOA presidency and helped implement new bylaws preventing discriminatory enforcement. She even started a neighborhood watch program not to police people's differences, but to genuinely look out for each other's safety and well-being. The transformation wasn't instant or perfect. Decades of prejudice don't disappear overnight. But watching her husband nearly die because of her own assumptions had shattered something fundamental in Margaret's worldview. 3 months later, she knocked on my door, not with a citation or complaint, but with a homemade apple pie and a request. Dr. Washington, she said, her voice humble in a way I'd never heard before, Gerald and I would like to host a neighborhood barbecue in your honor. To thank you for saving his life, but also to try to make things right. The barbecue was beautiful. Neighbors who'd been afraid to speak to each other for years found common ground. Children played together regardless of color. The Johnsons brought their famous mac and cheese. Mr. Park shared vegetables from his Forden that everyone now realized were just delicious. And Margaret? She spent the evening apologizing, listening, and learning. But the real change came 6 months later, when a young black family moved into the house at the end of the street. I watched from my window as Margaret walked up to their moving truck, not with citations or complaints, but with a welcome basket and an offer to help. Later that evening she called me. Dr. Washington, I wanted you to know I welcome the new family today. The Washingtons. She paused. Same last name as you. Isn't that wonderful? I smiled. Yes, Mrs. Sullivan, it really is. Margaret Sullivan learned the hardest lesson of her life that day. Hate is a poison that destroys the person who harbors it. Her prejudice nearly cost her husband his life and definitely cost her years of genuine community connection. But here's what gives me hope people can change. It takes a crisis, courage, and a lot of hard work, but transformation is possible. Margaret went from being the neighborhood's biggest problem to one of its strongest advocates for inclusion. She still lives in Cedar Heights, but now she's known for her kindness rather than her cruelty. And Gerald, he's healthier than he's been in years, both physically and spiritually. As for me, I still practice cardiothoracic surgery, still save lives, and still believe that healing, whether it's hearts or communities, is always possible. The next time someone judges you based on your appearance rather than your character, remember this: their prejudice says nothing about you and everything about them. Stay strong, stay proud, and never let their limitations become your own. What's the most powerful example of transformation you've witnessed? Share it in the comments below. And if this story moved you, subscribe for more tales where justice doesn't just win, it heals. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't payback. It's showing someone a better way to be human.